Welcome to this webinar about the new packing features in version 7.21. Today, Peter will show you the most important new user features for packaging in 7.21. Since not every new detail is shown, an overview of all new features is available in the help. Another webinar for the new label features in 7.21 is scheduled next week, Thursday, 27th of June at 4 p.m. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Elke. Welcome, my name is Peter Heijsen, Product Manager for the packaging segment of the MIS. It is my pleasure to present you the packaging features we developed for CERM version 7.21. Let's start with the content of this webinar. First of all, there are the sheet-fed substrates. We have been demonstrating them in the previous webinar, so we will not go through the entire management of these substrates again. Changes in 7.21 are limited to the new copy wizard that by which you can copy existing substrates and take over some properties of the original substrates in new substrates. This does only copy the properties and does not copy the materials that are linked to that original substrate. Therefore, we have the Create Material Wizard available for quite some time. So you can create multiple materials after a multi-select of substrates and this will avoid duplicate material sizes within the substrate. So that was already available in the previous version, but the more extended features are in the shapes. There we are. Shapes are one of the two cornerstones of packaging within the MIS. So there are multiple new features will be highlighted in this webinar. Then the third chapter is about the products that we will create from these shapes to start the one-up workflow to come to soft proofs and print-ready PDF files. Next, we have then the management of the die-cut tools, and here are the most important new features for packaging. Besides the improvement we had in the previous version, we will mainly highlight the interaction between MIS and CAD cut. Then the next chapter is about ganging of the different products in sales orders. Most of this part was also already presented, and we will focus more on the die-cut tool that is important during ganging. And the last chapter will be about estimating. This is the first step to come to estimating for packaging using almost all of the above features. Okay, within this presentation, we will be using different software tools. First is, I hope, your beloved MIS. So this is version 21, which was released this week. Then the second tool is CAD. We use Artios Cut version 18.0 and the automation engine that will connect us to the Artios Cut. And the third tool we will be using is the imposition tool from Telia Labs called Phoenix. The version we have in this demo is version 6.1.6. So it is important to show the interaction between these applications that will help us in calculating imposition and jobs for packaging. Okay, let's start with the shapes. The first chapter will be about simple boxes. So we will show you the new shape wizard. Basically, there are two different shape creation integrations with CAD. One is called Run a Standard, which is an automated CAD processing solution. No user intervention is needed on the CAD side. And the second one is called Design Request, which we would call semi-manual CAD processing by the CAD operator, so meaning cut instructions from the MIS, and cut input files are coming from the MIS and are handed over to the cut operator. He will then design the shape and return us the result of his design. Within this wizard, we added a new option to request mockups, and that is part of this first demonstration. I will now switch over to the installed cerm version. So I'll open with you the shapes module, where we will start with an example of new shapes. So you might have seen these shapes already in the previous version. So there's a wizard to enter a new shape. I will enter an example for this delirium beer box, for example. We can select here the product groups, and I will take this folding carton product group, enter a customer for this shape and a contact. Can optionally indicate the grain direction of the paper that is visualized on the right hand side. Substrates, let me check what we have on substrates in the list, and you can filter on different columns like the grammage or the thickness to select the substrate that you need for this specific shape. Substrate is a mandatory field, but this was not the case in previous version, so we changed here part of the interface. Another change, which is a small change, is we try to split up the data that is administrative data next to the technical data, which will be handed over to the cut application. I will select here a standard design. In the previous webinar, we already explained that the standard designs are fetched from Artios Cut. So this is a list that you can retrieve via schedule task or manual query to Artios Cut. Next to this, we need to enter the dimensions of the box. So in this case, I enter the dimensions I got from the customer. The third part of the interface are cut fields. We will not enter these fields. You will see that this is information that is returned by cut to cerm. So we will then later come back to these to this information. For this example, I will not add any cut instructions. And we come to the screen where we have the request for mockups. So you could enter a quantity for internal mockups or some mockups that need to be shipped to the customer. Let me enter here 2 mockups. This is the customer. I want to send these mockups to this contact, and you will see the result after finishing this wizard. So 2 external mockups for this customer. On the last screen, we then see the custom statuses that you can implement. In this implementation, we added here auto to indicate that these are automatic statuses that will be set by the software next to some manual statuses. So you implement more or less whatever you need to follow up the status of these shapes. So we create the new shape in the MIS, and we will create for this shape as well the cut job that will enable communication with automation engine and Artios Cut, and the data from this shape will then be handed over, and the design can start in Artios Cut. We do not only send over this shape, but also the customer that was used in this shape, and the substrate that was used will also be synced with cut. So the more shapes you enter, the more customers and substrates you hand over from the MIS to Artios Cut. So the status of this new shape is run standard is in progress, meaning this is an automated workflow where we just need to wait for the response from RDOSCAT because there were no manual instructions nor additional files, so this can run completely in the background. I refresh my window to see that the shape was designed by RDOSCAT, and the status now is create output in progress. You already see that there is a thumbnail returning from RDOSCAT, and I expect that a few seconds later we will also have a new status change from output in progress to output completed. So now the complete process has finished. Let's have a look at the result. You will see that in the properties of that shape, additional information was returned by RDOSCAT, being the surface of the shape, which is the surface of the design that you see on the right-hand side, the total cutting length and creasing length, and the cut box, which is the box in which you see this this shape. And this is information that we need for the product that will be created out of these shapes. So this is the main process of creating a shape and getting information back from RDOSCAT. Next to this shape, we see also at the bottom that there is a transport requirement to send these two copies to the customer, and this information is also available in the list of all your transport requirements, so you can follow up all these things that need to be shipped to or sent to the customer. This is it for the shape design. Let's have a look at the next part. I will minimize this one. So after the mockup has been requested, we have also the management of the cut outputs. I will explain you in the demo that the cut outputs is a configuration of all the types of files that you can retrieve from your cut system. So it's first of all configuration, and next to this there's also a wizard, and the wizard will help you in requesting specific files for a specific shape. Because of the management of the cut outputs, we are also able to share some of these shape documents with your customers, and that is what we will show now in the second demonstration. So I'll return to the software and show you that there is in the menu an additional option to create what we call cut outputs. This is a one-time definition in which you indicate what type of output do I want to get from my RDOSCAT system. For example, the first one is the shopcart PDF document. This is called in my RDOSCAT system shopcart, and the file that I want to store in my shape is in fact the shape ID underscore shopcart.pdf, which is stored in a subfolder of my shape folder. Let's have a look. This one is ticked on as default, meaning this file was created for me with this first shape. Indeed, I find for this shape 189 a subfolder called Web for Boxes, and I see that in this folder there are indeed two PDF files. One is the 3D PDF file, and one is the shopcart as we saw before. So since this one is ticked on by default, we get these files from from within any communication that we have with RDOSCAT. Now, besides the default output files, you can also retrieve other files. I will open the menu to create additional cut outputs. And besides the defaults that we see here, I could also, for example, request the PDF with the technical inks or any other file that was pre-configured for me. So if I ask for this one, the PDF with the technical inks, then you will see that the status of the shape will again change to output create output is in progress. So we are waiting for the files that we created by ArduSCAD. And once the files are coming in, again, the status will automatically change to completed, and then we will find our files in the folder. This is still ongoing at this moment. So here we are. Create output is completed, and if we open the shape folder, then we see that indeed within the folder the file with name PDF with technical inks is there, and as you could expect, this is just a PDF file with the cut and creasing lines. So whatever type of output you can create with it with your ArduSCAD system, add your outputs in this list, and you can retrieve them for any shape. The requesting and retrieving of files is of course possible for one individual shape, but you could also use multi-select to select all the shapes that you created this morning and then retrieve all these files for these shapes. The communication between cerm and automation engine will take care of storing all these files on the right places. Now, one of these or two of these files will be stored in a subfolder called buffer boxes. Those two are marked as default. And one of the things we could do is we could share these files with our customer. This is what we will try now. Again, I go to the folder buffer boxes. I see that these two files are available. And there is an additional wizard in the menu called email softproof. I open the email softproof wizard to see that for my customer, and these are the contacts for that customer. For my customer, I get by default some contacts in the to box. How comes that we have these two contacts? Because these were configured as the approvers of this customer, so they will get by default this email, unless of course you change anything on the box on the right hand side, and then you will send only the email to one of these two. There's of course a default text that is in the email for that customer, and in attachment you can find all the files that were configured for sending with this email wizard. So in this case, these two PDF files that are stored in the buffer boxes folder. I fetch the wizard to get the email, and I just need to send the email to my customer and he will get my files. If I do this, then you will see that the status of the shape will also change to proof sent because it was configured this way. Maybe one remark to show you how this was, how the configuration was done. If I open the standard configurations, then you will see that there is a folder configured here, and this folder holds all the files that we want to share by default with the customer. Of course, within the wizard, you can then remove some of these files if needed. Okay, this is the management of the cut outputs and the shared documents with customers. I return now the PowerPoint. So there's also an additional new wizard to copy a shape to a new shape. So this is new wizard, and the purpose of this wizard is to help you in creating multiple shapes in case you need something to change on the dimensions or anything else within this shape. The purpose of the copy wizard is so not only to help you in creating multiple shapes, but also to give you an overview of what we call the shape evolution. And I will try to show this with an example. There we are. So I return to my previous shape. I will copy this one. And I get the question, is the new shape a new version of the previous shape? Similar to the question we have in the product, I answer yes. And I will create a new shape. Let me try to show you by adding the tool in the description. And for example, this shape requires some different dimensions. So I change something in the dimensions. And again, we will have the complete process of requesting a design to Artios Cut and get these files back in the overview. After Artios Cut completed the design, again, the cut outputs will be created and stored within the folder of the new shape that we are creating now. So this is mainly the same. The only difference is that we store also the link between the previous and the new shape. And by storing this link, we then can show to the users what we would call the shape evolution. I will show this with an example. If I open the cases with the shampoo box and I click on whatever shape within this list, open the shape evolution overview, then you will see that originally we had one shape that has the number 184, was created on a specific date, has specific dimensions, and from this one we copied to the next one, and you can see in the image that indeed dimensions changed slightly. You can also see this in the columns. I move further down and you will again see on the image at the bottom that the dimensions have changed. And so you see, in fact, the evolution of this one shape during over time. From this first shape, we then copied to the number 187 and again did some changes on the, in this case, the size A, where you can see that we go from 150 to 140, 130, and then you see also in the image what has changed. You have more columns on these shapes that you can add, so this is pretty configurable. You can also copy from here if you would want new versions of that one shape. Okay, these are the cases with the simple shapes. Let's have a look on the multi-part shape. The multi-part shape wizard is in fact a wizard in which you identify first the multi-part as such, like being a display. For example, I select here the display product group and can then additionally create some parts of the multi-part, for example, the tray or any part that can be grouped in a multi-part. Let me show you an example that I prepared for you because this takes some time to calculate all these shapes. So I have here a multi-part shape created today. And this multi-part consists of two parts. These are the two parts, and this is shape 182 and 183. So there's a link or a relation between the multi-part and the individual elements that come together in this multi-part. If you click on any of these elements, then you will see that this element is used in the multi-part 181. So there's a relation between all these elements, and this is what we call multi-part. Later we will create multiple products out of this multi-part as well. One last change is the fact that we have in the overview also a button. Let me call the shape that we have designed before. Where is he? There is the beer box label or box. There is an option to add links to this overview, and some of you know that with these links you can add your own buttons on top, like for example Shape Excel would be an example of how you could add your own buttons and your own functions, and in this case would show me some data that was available within this shape. So this is custom configuration. You can add any type of button on top, and behind the button is then some command that you can configure. So these are the shapes, and these are the changes that we had in the shapes. I will now move on to the management of the products. So this was the picture of the multi-part shapes. I will now move on to the products and start creating products from a shape. If let's have a look on an example. I select one shape in the overview, this one, sandwich box. There is a button new product. So we will create from this shape new product, or let me maybe search for another one. The Lumi Plus is, I think, a better example. We create a new product out of the shape. This will add a product, add something extra. So take over the description of the shape. We'll also fill in the shape ID and the shape properties that we know. And this data will then be copied in a new product. Once you have the product, the workflow is pretty similar to what we are used to do with products. You have the product on your screen. You take the PDF file that you get from your customer and drag and drop the PDF file on the product. Will launch the OneUp workflow for that specific product. So you see that the files have arrived, or the status changed to files arrived, and the OneUp workflow in the automation engine will take care of this artwork file. Let me show you in the PowerPoint what the requirements are. So in fact, to use this OneUp workflow for packaging, you need a shape ID. So you need to have a shape ID that is exchanged with your RDOS cut, and you need a shape file for this shape ID. So it can be an .ard file or a .cf2 file, which is stored in the shape folder. We saw in the previous examples how you can ask for files in shape folders. We also need cut box dimensions in the product properties. So these were also available in the shapes, and by creating a product out of a shape, the cut box dimensions are also taken over in the product. Then we need an implementation of the automation engine quick start workflows for folding carton, and we need on the cerm side 2 custom GDFs to initiate the whole process. Let's have a look on what happened in the meantime. So the status has changed to size OK, waiting for the operator. I open automation engine, and indeed there is a new to-do. I check here the product that requires my attention, which is this one, to see that there is a PDF file. I can check the content of the PDF file, and then if everything is as expected, I then close my window and mark this one as completed. Again, this will continue the process within Automation Engine and will return the statuses as we move on with processing this file. In the meantime, I can explain you that some technical data was stored in this product as well. For example, the surface is taken over in the product from the shape, and knowing that the surface is there and the substrate is known, there is also in the properties of the product information about the weight of the individual products or the weight of 1000 products, which will help us in calculating transport requirements afterwards. In the meantime, let's check the status of the product ongoing. So we talked about the product surface and the net weight, and maybe one additional information on that OneUp workflow. So in fact, that OneUp workflow can work for these cases: printing front only or front and back printing. Because of these files, you could work with one file for one page for front only. That I think is obviously clear. Another option is one file containing 2 pages, and that will then be page 1 for the front and page 2 for the back of the box. Or you could use 2 different files, front and back file, put them in the product folder, and then change the status to digital art arrived. So these are the cases how to handle your artwork files for these boxes, and this will then initiate the workflow in the quick start workflow on the automation engine. In the meantime, I expect that the status has changed again. Let's have a look on the colors. So colors were taken out of the PDF file and stored in the product color list. And I expect that a few seconds later, we will then also have additional files, but there's another task for me. Again, I open the product to see the pre-flight report. And if I would be an pre-press operator, I would explain you in detail how to handle this, but I do not have the time for this, so I need to ignore these warnings and continue with the demonstration. Okay, and at the end of this process, we will get the PDF files from ArduosCAD, store them in the product folders to exchange them or share them again with the customers. There we are. Let me have a look at another example. For example, what did we have here? The orange box, if I open this one, you will see that data is coming back in these folders, like the thumbnail, but also the high resolution PDF file that will be used for printing. And we have also the proofs, pre-flight report, the soft proof, and the 3D box, which is a file that you then share with the customers after you checked yourself the artwork on the folded box. So these are the products. This is the OneUp workflow for the different cases mentioned here in the PowerPoint. I need to speed up a little bit. Let's move on with the carton die management. So there are a lot of changes in the carton die wizard. First of all, there's a configuration in the tool types, and this configuration will help us with the definition of what we call tool jobs. So these tool jobs enable the communication again with ArduosCAD to start from this OneUp shape to come to this layout based on the board size that you can enter within the wizard. So there are different layout styles. There's online documentation available about these layout styles. So if you open our documentation on carton dies, you go to the layout styles, then you will see the different styles and what the consequences are for a specific shape on your imposition. So everything is there in the documentation. Please check out if you want to know more about the layout styles. Then we have the custom statuses to monitor the interaction with CAD, same like we had in the shapes. That's the way to follow up how the process runs between your MIS and your CAD. And again, like in the shapes, we have the CAD outputs to store CF2 files or any PDF file for this carton die. Let's have a look at the demo. I open the management of the carton dies. Select create a new carton die for this demo. Carton die, the customer is, for example, fruit, and I will create a new carton die indicating the shapes. For example, the delirium box that I selected previously. I indicate there's at least one position. I do not know how many positions I can get on a sheet. On the next screen, I indicate that the first knife is on 10 millimeters. There's a gutter between the different boxes on the layout, and the board size is whatever size suits on my machines. I indicate the layout style, as I mentioned before, on the to indicate how nesting can be performed within the layout. And I expect from cut the knife to knife distance or sizes in return. Like we had in the shapes, there's also an overview of custom statuses that you can manage. I call the first status new virtual because in this case, this is in fact only a file that we create. So this is not yet a full carton die plate that we can store in the warehouse. So again, communication starts with Ardios CAD, and we can follow here that the auto layout request is in progress. Similar to what we have in the shapes, there are two different processes. One is called auto layout to do the calculation of the layout completely automatically. And the other one is a semi-automatic solution where the operator needs to interfere. For example, if there are two different shapes, then the operator will have to decide how to put these two different shapes on the layout. After a few seconds, we get the file back from Ardios CAD, and you see that the nesting was calculated and is here on the thumbnail. If I return to the tab with the shapes, then you will see that this shape has now 6 positions on this die cut tool. So this is thanks to the tool job configuration. I will show you how this was done. I open the parameters to show the, no, that's wrong. I open the parameters to show the types of tools. So the first tool type in my list is called carton die. I marked this one with type carton die, and I indicated a product type for this kind of tool. And this will create for me or allow me to create a job out of this tool. The default behavior is you can create a job and submit a GDF, which is not the case for any other of these tools, like for example, for this Anilox. Okay, so this is the creation of the carton die tool and the calculation of the layout based on a specific shape or specific shapes. Let's now move on to the next chapter, which is the ganging in sales orders. So during ganging in sales orders, we will calculate the imposition of the different boxes based on the die cut tool. We now added also the creation of the die cut tool within this ganging wizard. I will show this later. These are two examples. And then within the ganging, we gang different products using the Phoenix imposition tool, and to come to this imposition where these boxes are placed according to the die cut tool. Let's have a look there. I open the sales orders, and I have on my desktop a file with an Excel file with some orders. Drag and drop these orders on your sales order module to see that these are the products that were found in the Excel file. So I import 31 sales orders. This is the list. I select them and I will start the ganging wizard to make the combination of all different products on sheets. You see that by default, the system created for me 3 groups. I explained in previous webinar how this is organized and how you can optionally create multiple groups, or how to use this wizard. So basically you get all information from sales orders and products in this grid and can then filter, group, and play around with these products. For example, if I would take these products that require a later delivery than the first one, then I could split them up in a separate group and have them here as a separate job that can be produced later, or maybe I will take these products and throw them out of my my list. Let's come back to the grouping properties. Again, I group to the original list. And let me throw out these as well. So I have now 2 jobs, one job with all these products and one job with the coffee boxes. If I go to the next screen, then you will see that there's now the selection of the carton die. And in this case, I could take one of these or some of these dies and request the calculation of the imposition based on these 2 carton dies. So this is one die with 4 positions. This is one die with 9 positions for this list of shapes. The second one is the coffee boxes, and for this one there's only one die cut tool. And by selecting this one die cut tool, you will see that the CF2 file from that die cut tool is selected here automatically in my list. I can add or can select multiple paper sizes, multiple grain directions, and ask for a calculation on these different papers. I would throw out the first job to come up only with one job. I select all the machines that I want to use for this this job, and at the end of this selection of shapes, die cut tools, papers, and presses, I expect to see an overview of the imposition options that we have and how to combine these different products on one sheet using the layout of the die cut tool. So the CF2 file is returned by cut and is used to calculate here the imposition. These are different options, and one or more sheets will be created out of this list, taking in account the different quantities that are ordered. I confirm one of these options, and this should create for me the job like we showed in the previous webinar. Let's have a look on estimation. So the purpose of estimation is to calculate existing or new shapes, starting from a CF2 shape one-up file, and calculate the imposition on a bigger sheet. So the wizard itself will check the shape or shapes, and if multiple shapes were selected, will check the substrate of these shapes, since you cannot combine different shapes with different substrates on one sheet, of course. Next part is we will select existing, or we will make a new die cut tool for this imposition, using again the communication with ArduSCAD. The result of that is again a CF2 file for the die cut imposition. Then Phoenix will calculate the imposition for the different quantities, and this will create for us a quote. So this solution supports one shape on one or more die cut tools. This supports multiple shapes on separate die cut tools, meaning I select multiple shapes and I select different die cut tools. This will create for me a quote on separate sheets. And the third option is I select multiple shapes on mixed die cut tool or die cut tools to create one or more sheets depending on the quantities. So the result of this estimating wizard is one or more sheets based on the die cut, calculation of costing, shapes on the quote letter, and the products that we will create out of calculation will have then also that shape or these shape properties. Let's have a look. I return to the estimating module. Within the estimating module, I open the ganging wizard, select my customer, fruit. For this customer, indicate the description of the quote boxes. I indicate a product type packaging, a quantity, and on the next screen, I need to indicate the individual parts of my sheet. So one part could be box 1, and I indicate the shape that was created for the delirium beer box, or maybe one of these shampoo boxes that were created today. I indicate the color code, full color for front only. On the next screen, I see that there are different paper sizes. The default selection is based on the shape. So basically what you see here is that the substrate is taken over from the shape, and then for this substrate, all the different dimensions are listed, and you can then select multiple sizes. I have already one die cut tool calculated and can calculate now the imposition on that die cut tool using one of these machines and using one of these profiles. Again, the CF2 file is available there for the calculation of the imposition. There we go. We have the sheet calculated, and the wizard will create for me one estimate with one calculation in it. We have one sheet. The sheet has an imposition of 4 boxes, and we have a quote letter that mentions the shape on these sheets. So again, this is configuration, you all know. Last thing to do is have a look at the quote letter, and the quote letter will mention, of course, the text that we prepared and the picture that comes with the shape from my ArduSCAD. So on this quote letter, nothing new except for the shape that is mentioned here. If I would take another example, I would open ganging for the same customer. I add multiple shapes, same product type packaging, indicate the quantity. I add my first element on my list. I call this box 1, and this is only 15,000 copies. If I select here a shape like this one, full color, and I add a second part, call this box 2. The remaining part of the quantity is proposed here. Again, I indicate another shape, sizes. Now you see that we have two different shapes, and I have on my system one tool that already holds these two shapes. So we will now get a calculation based on a mixed die cut tool. Now in some cases, if you would create an estimate for a new box, then you would add here a line for the new box. You do not have the shape yet, since it's completely new project. Then you have the button new shape to create a new shape out of the estimate. You need to indicate the substrate that you want to use. For example, this freeze material, standard design. I select out of my list a standard design. I indicate the dimensions, which will for me send the data to ArcGIS like we saw before. And one of the things that is returned by ArcGIS is in this case a CF2 file, and the CF2 file will be used to do the calculation of the imposition on the die cut tool later. So need to wait a little bit until all the data is processed through cerm automation engine and ArcGIS. So we have a new shape in our library, which is shape number 191. You will find this shape as well in the overview of the shapes that we created today. I expect this one here at the bottom, 191. So the status of this shape is run standard is in progress. Like we saw before, after a few seconds, we get information back from this shape, like the thumbnail that is available here, and we see that the run standard has been completed. The create output is in progress like we saw before, and that is exactly what you can also follow within your estimate, since the same statuses are available here. So if you refresh your screen, then you will see that the statuses can be followed here as well. The thumbnail is there, and the output is completed. Once the output is completed, we see that also the cut file, the CF2 file is there, so we can continue and doing the calculation for this new shape. So we selected two of these materials. If this is a new shape, then we also need to create a new carton die. So data is taken over for the new carton die wizard. The new box is available here. One position, since we do not know at this moment. Again, we indicate the dimensions. And we indicate the nesting properties. This will, similar like we saw before, create for us the layout, and the layout will return us a CF2 file, and with that layout we will then do the calculation of this new shape on the new carton die. So the status is virtual, of course, because this is only a file, not yet a tool plate. Similar like we saw before, we need a few seconds before ArcGIS calculated for us the entire imposition of these shapes. And I expect to have here the overview of the shapes on the thumbnail. Takes a while. There we are. So the imposition is, let me check, 6 shapes on the board size. And if all the files are available, I want to return if all the files are available, waiting for the cut output because we need the CF2 file as well. There we are. All the files are created and returned to the to cerm. I select this die cut tool to see on the next screen that my CF2 file is indeed available. I select the big size the big machine, indicate one of these ganging profiles, and expect to see there the calculation of the imposition on that one die cut tool, returning us one estimate, one calculation, and one quote letter. So I confirm this one. And again, I have created a second estimate with a one box and one quote letter, and etc. The last thing I did not show yet was the creation of a new product out of an estimate is then similar to what we have seen from the shapes. So you create your new product, you have the shape information, all the dimensions, and then again can later upload your artwork files. So this is it. These are the new features for packaging in 7.21. Let me return to the PowerPoint. Yeah, this is a time for questions and answers. Feel free to use the text box on the right-hand side to enter your questions. I will try to answer these questions as good as possible. Did we get already some questions? I see one is coming in. Question is, when is the release of the version you showed? Well, that's an easy one. Software was released this week, so it is available on the downloads. Please take care of testing before putting this software in production. Beware, some of these fields in the carton dies have changed places, so please test and return us your remarks. Second question, can you change dimensions of the shape or the imposition of the die cut layout afterwards? Yes, you can. Maybe I did not show this before, but whatever you change on the die cut tool, for example, I want to change the dimensions of the board size. If you change anything here, you then again send the request to your ArduSCAD, and then the new layout will be calculated after you changed these properties. So again, I would expect here that the statuses will change. Now auto layout is in progress, and I expect to get a return where not 6 but less of these shapes are positioned on this layout. Let's wait a few seconds to see what comes in. The data is processed from cerm to automation engine and through automation engine to ArduSCAD, and we get indeed information back. At this moment, we see that only two shapes can fit on this smaller board size, so the status and the quantity have changed. I expect that now files will be created for me, and after these files are created, I expect to get the status and the latest CF2 file within this carton die. So there we are. If I now check the files, then you will see that indeed at this moment we get new files in, a new MFG file, a new CF2 file. So these files are stored now in the carton die. I hope this answered your question. Any more? One new question comes in. Can you also do the calculation of multi-parts cover and bottom in the estimation? No, not at this moment, but that brings me to the last chapter of the PowerPoint. I tried to share with you some plans of the version 7.22. So this is version that is planned for November this year. We plan to deliver more detailed description of the different work steps for production of packaging. We plan also to support the complex boxes like rigid boxes that you see here on the PowerPoint in estimation and in product creation. We plan to implement features to sync existing shapes from your JOS CAD system to cerm. So not only shapes, but also the die-cut tools. And we plan to implement palletizing schemes in version 7.22. Any other questions? No, we're done. So like Elke mentioned before, there's more to come. As mentioned at the start of the webinar, there is the webinar with the new features for labels, which is scheduled within 1 week. So new label features in 7.21. Welcome to subscribe to this webinar, and I thank you for your attention.